In today's video, I want to go over a massive update to Final Fantasy VII Remake. We got a ton of new details, including Sephiroth, Shinra, Aerith's abilities, the Shiva summon, and more. We've got a lot of visuals as well and a lot of details. So starting things off, I do want to highlight a lot of the new information about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Square Enix has released new information and screenshots of the game, highlighting Sephiroth, the members of Shinra Electric Power Company, Aerith's abilities in battle, the Shiva summon, the Train Graveyard. Square Enix revealed 2 new visuals featuring Tifa and Sephiroth and shared 11 developer comments. I want to go through all of that. So the visuals look quite sleek. That only tells us so much. However, they do detail characters as well. First off, we have Sephiroth, of course, the big bad of Final Fantasy VII. Voiced by Toshiyuki Moriwaka in Japanese, Sephiroth is famed as the finest member of Shinra's elite soldier unit. His gallant efforts in the war with Wutai made him a hero, and he's inspired many brave youths to join soldier. Sephiroth is believed to have died during a top secret mission, but there may be far more to the story than people know. Obviously, if you guys know the story, I don't think it's all that much of a spoiler, but you will be having some dealings with Sephiroth in the main game of Final Fantasy VII. You've also got the Shinra Electric Power Company, President Shinra, voiced by Genzo Wakayama. And by the way, the voice acting, of course, is in Japanese. We don't have details on specific English voice actors for some of the characters. But the current president of the Shinra Electrical Power Company raised the company up from a small arms manufacturer to the massively powerful conglomerate it is in today's world in Final Fantasy VII. He can be generous to his allies, but when it comes to business, he is utterly ruthless. He's willing to use cutthroat business tactics to make a profit and eliminate anyone who gets in his way. Next up, we have Heidegger, voiced by Katsumi Cho in Japanese, as well as being the director of public security. Heidegger has been President Shinra's right-hand man since the early days of the company. He's just as ruthless as his boss and will do anything to get what he wants, even sacrifice his own subordinates. He's trusted implicitly by the president, and this has made public security the most powerful department within Shinra. Next up, we have Roach, voiced by Kenta Miyake in Japanese. This 3C soldier turned rebel is also known as the Speed Demon. He loves bikes, speed, and anyone who can give him a challenge. His comrades, however, find him a little bit annoying. He constantly squeals his rear tire and makes them choke on fumes of burnt rubber. Alright, so those are the characters they've detailed, but they also have some battle introductions. First of all, with Aerith, the screenshot showcased of her demonstrate how Aerith fights. A press of the square button will make her launch a ranged magic attack by pressing square and repeatedly or holding the button. Successive attacks can be unleashed. In addition, the number of targets hit will increase and attacks will cover a wider area. They also go over some unique abilities. By pressing the triangle button, Aerith will unleash her unique ability, the Tempest. You can also charge the attack by holding the triangle button at maximum charge. It will explode repeatedly after it hits an enemy. Soul Drain lets Aerith absorb MP from a foe as she specializes in magic attacks. Using this skill will be a necessity in tough fights. She's got Lustrous Shield that allows Aerith to summon a magical barrier which will keep enemies at bay and block projectiles. What's more, any attackers who come into contact with the shield will take damage. And also, they go over summons. Characters in Final Fantasy VII Remake can use summon materia orbs that let them summon an intensely powerful ally into the fight, and they specifically touted Shiva. The Queen of Ice Shiva is one such summon. This frosty figure gives an icy glare to enemies and a loving smile to allies. She skates around the battlefield and manipulates the air to freeze enemies in the blink of an eye. Once summoned, Shiva will fight automatically, but you can also issue commands to make her use specific abilities. Heavenly Strike, for instance, creates a giant glacier and smashes it down onto an opponent. Summons are governed by a special gauge. When it's empty, they'll disappear, but just before they leave, they'll deliver an especially powerful move. In Shiva's case, it is Diamond Dust, a move fans of the original Final Fantasy VII may remember. Shiva encases enemies in ice and then shatters them in spectacular fashion. So how their ultimate move works is more in line with a game like Final Fantasy 15, where that you can't just summon them and automatically go right into their ultimate move in Diamond Dust in Shiva's case, but you will have to wait for the gauge to expire and then they'll launch their ultimate move. Also, they tout new story episodes, which might be very exciting to some people. Final Fantasy VII Remake takes many locations from the original game and redesigns and reinterprets them to add additional depth. The story is more detailed too, with more dialogue, story sequences, and a greater portrayal of citizens' lives, which is very exciting. I know there's a lot of concern with the game being multi-parted, however, this is going to let them flesh out each section of the game. Final Fantasy VII is an absolutely massive game, and if it was just recreated completely authentically and designed the exact same way, The issue is, to do that in modern day and not add anything new, I feel like that would be a little bit disappointing. Nowadays, we do want characters to be a little bit more fleshed out. We've had so many great RPGs that, yes, Final Fantasy VII does hold up relatively well, but it does need to evolve a little bit, considering it's being catered towards a 2019 audience. Remember, there are a lot of people that are playing the game for the first time, and I'm sure that there are also a lot of people, myself included, that played Final Fantasy VII back in the day, but we want something else to sink our teeth into as well. Yes, keep the core of the story intact, keep all of the integral elements intact, but fleshing out some of the characters, adding more content that doesn't damage the integrity of Final Fantasy VII. I'm not saying completely turn Final Fantasy VII on its head and make this something entirely new. However, part of me wouldn't be completely against that, but I'm not here to get into that debate right now. But I think at the very least, they do need to add a little bit more content here and there. They do need to flesh out some elements of the game. And I think for everyone that's playing the game, again, given that it is going to be multi-parted, you do need to do that if you want every $60 purchase to be worthwhile for the consumer. Alright, so with that out of the way, moving on, we've got the Train Graveyard. The Train Graveyard is a perfect example of this fleshed out world of Final Fantasy VII. Originally used during the construction of Midgar, this area has since become a junkyard for old and abandoned trains. Strong winds make the rusting carriages creak and groan, and odd high-pitched sounds echo over the area. You may remember this location from the original Final Fantasy VII. In that game, there was no dialogue here, but in Final Fantasy VII Remake, characters will talk to each other as they explore the maze of wreckage. The new game also adds a new story into this area with multiple event scenes. They also talk a little bit about the world of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, the Shinra building. They give a closer look at that area of the game. The headquarters of the Shinra Electric Power Company is a 70-story skyscraper in the center of Midgar. Up on the upper levels, you'll find the offices of President Shinra and the directors and a memorial floor, which you can learn all about the history of Shinra. Alternatively, head to the Visual Entertainment Hall where you can see the latest technology being demonstrated. And of course, the first thing you'll see is the expansive entrance. Inside the building, you can take a look at some of the Shinra cars on display, or to unwind, why not head up to the relaxation floor. So that's everything that's been detailed in the new update, and I am really liking how Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming together. It's obvious that this game is going to be a little bit different than Final Fantasy VII. They are adding a lot more, and in terms of gameplay, I think it has a lot more depth than people were originally afraid of. I think there were some people that were expecting the gameplay to be a little bit basic. Whatever the case may be, there was also that complaint of the game being action-oriented. However, now we know that there is going to be options in how you play the game, although I think everybody complaining about this game moving a little bit away from the original, yes, nostalgia will get you really far. It'll take you pretty damn far in actuality, but at some point, you have to understand that it's been, what, 22 years, 23 years by the time the game releases since Final Fantasy VII came out. Look, I loved Final Fantasy VII. I even played it a few years ago, back in like 2015, and I loved it back then as well, but if you want to engross a new audience as well, you do need to evolve the game a little bit. You do need to add new elements, and you do need to flesh it out, especially considering, again, it is going to be multi-parts. We still don't know if it's going to be 2 parts, 3 parts, even 4 parts, and I do think there's potential for creating 3 or 4 compelling parts, but obviously, if you want to do that, you have to create compelling side stories. You have to add compelling new content. It can't be tacked on content. It can't just be content for the sake of adding content and fluffing out hours. And as far as a Final Fantasy game goes, you know, people are expecting for their $60 to at least get a 30 to 40 hour experience, and then if you're talking about 100%ing the game, it would probably be considerably more than that. I mean, look at how many hours it takes to 100% Final Fantasy 15. I wouldn't say that Final Fantasy 15 is the most content-filled Final Fantasy in the world, but even still, to 100% that game, it is quite a lot. So there's a lot of uncertainty in regards to the game being released in multiple parts. However, I am incredibly excited for the game. The more I see it, the more they hook me on it. And from a Square Enix standpoint, they really need to establish more franchises that people are really into. I know Final Fantasy VII isn't a new franchise. However, this is at the very least, you know, 2 to 3 to 4 separate games that they can release, and hopefully they all perform commercially well. And in the case of FF7, that's really going to set the tempo for the future parts. You would have to suspect that the first part's going to sell the best, and then it will weaken with each subsequent part. That's generally how things work. I believe that's how it worked with Final Fantasy 13, but that's another can of worms to open for another day, whether you want to argue that Final Fantasy 13's sales faltered with the sequels because of game quality, or just in the general sense that they were sequels that nobody wanted. In the case of FF7 Remake, I suspect that the game is going to sell quite well, and we do know it's going to be a PlayStation 4 exclusive for a year. It will ultimately come out probably on Xbox One, probably on PC, but for the first year, it will be an exclusive to PlayStation 4, and who knows after that, You would think that Part 2 would be on the PlayStation 5 and subsequently with Part 3 or Part 4, hypothetically, if those come to fruition as well. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Are you as excited for me, or are you still a little bit skeptical? Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.